President Trump has nominated, I think, 3 justices to the Supreme Court. I don't know how many judges he's appointed. Federal judges are appointed. The president appoints them, the Senate has to okay them, and they are there for life. Or until they want to retire. Is that good or bad? If they were elected, which we elect state judges, I'm not a huge fan of that. If you're elected and you're a judge, what's gonna happen? If you're a judge and you're elected, what's that? Could that affect the way you rule on stuff? Do we need judges who are going to care what we think about what they do? Are we smart or are we stupid? We're stupid. How many of y'all have been to law school? I've never been to law school. Let's know why they ruled that. Well, they ruled that because a bunch of stuff. It's like, quit running the ball up the middle. We're not running the ball up the middle. It's a read. It's an option. You know, there's a lot of, we think we know a lot and we don't know anything. So I'm glad that at federal level, judges are not thinking about what are people thinking about what I'm doing here. You know what I'm saying? Now, we might not like the rulings they make, and we'll get to the judge stuff, but I'm really glad at the federal level, they are free. Like the lady said this week, we are free from the political process. We don't worry about that. We are free to make good decisions, not do whichever way the winds blow. How is this the most powerful thing a president can do? Appointing judges and appointing Supreme Court justices. When's Trump gone?
3 years.
Either 4 years from now or a week from now. Either way, he's gone and someone else will take over. How long are those Supreme Court justices on there? Maybe 20 more years.
Huge cash show.
So I'm gone, and if I'm president and when I leave, some other person comes in and they start doing their stuff. My stuff as president, for the most part, is going to go away. 20 years after I'm out of office, this person I put on the Supreme Court, and the reason I put them there is because they look at the Constitution the way I do, they're still there affecting stuff. Does that make sense? Because 20 years after you're gone as president, those judges, those justices are still there, and your influence is being felt. Very good? See all this. Everybody got that? All right.
That was number 17.
That is 17, yes. I hope I did this, but looking back, I don't know if I did. How many of y'all, and I hope there's at least one person in this room that can raise their hand to this. Hopefully y'all know the experience of you're driving down the road, Dad's driving, and they're kind of swerving because they're reaching back and swinging, and you are just sucked up against the back seat because you don't want them to make contact. How many of you down with that? Driver? Okay, good. Whew. That's punishment, right? If the dad says, when we pull over, your life is ended. That is a reprieve. What's a reprieve? Are you getting punished? Are you getting punished right now? You're putting it off. So if you get a reprieve, that is putting off the punishment. the governor and the president both have some say-so over judicial stuff. The most like a reprieve. Sometimes the governor could come in and say, like an execution, say, look, let's put this execution off. Let's look at this a little bit more. Sometimes they call it a stay of execution. That's a reprieve. It doesn't mean you're not getting punished. We're putting it off for a while to look at stuff. The president can do the same thing. A pardon. If you're pardoned, you're forgiven. Pardon means forgiveness.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, please, I'm begging your forgiveness. Colt was right, Pacer. Colt, when he heard about the twin day thing, he said, I guarantee you somebody will be thing one and thing two. He was right. Way to go. You know, did they have, I'm trying to picture them. What's that? Okay. Did they have, what was their, did they have a mask or a hat or something?
No, they were just really weird faces.
Okay.
They were just white.
Dr. Seuss stuff. Dr. Seuss is pretty cool. I like Dr. Seuss. Look up If I Ran a Circus. It's not Dr. Seuss that wrote it, but it's one of those books that's like tied in with Dr. Seuss. It's a great book. It's got a lot of cool names, a lot of funny pictures. I don't know if they make it anymore. When I was a little kid, If I Ran a Circus. The president, when the president leaves office, that last week, that last day, they issue pardons. They don't pardon drug dealers. They don't pardon murderers. They pardon the drug dealer that got out and fixed their life and then is doing something great with their life. Usually with that kind of pardon, it takes it off your record. Very rarely do they let people out of jail or something. They give people pardons that make them look good. Does that make sense? As they leave office, they want people to feel good about them, so you'll pardon this person who maybe did something wrong a long time ago, or maybe somebody who they found not guilty and you pardon them and it wipes the slate clean for them. I think Bill Clinton did pardon his brother of all cocaine charges. Very rarely do you get that one. I don't know if my uncle has any of those. I don't know. But that's a pardon. The president could pardon anybody and say, you're free. 20-time murderer, you're free. But they're not going to do that because it makes them look bad. What's amnesty? You ever heard of amnesty? There's a group called Amnesty International. This was talked about probably about, of course, years all run together. Do you remember in Europe, I want to say it's like 4 or 5 years ago, it might have even been 6 years ago, there were all groups of refugees fleeing like Syria and Iraq and Turkey because of ISIS, and they were flooding into Europe, and Europe was asking America to take some of these people in, and we said no. Why would you say no? Now some of these were families fleeing because they didn't want to be killed, right? Why would we not take those people into America? Well, they already are.
I know what I'm saying.
But who are these people? Do we know who these people are? Some of them are legitimately fleeing for their life. Some of them are fleeing so they can go somewhere and kill people. Does that make sense? Oh, thank you, man. We don't know who they are, so we said no, because there was no way to really check up and see who it was. And a lot of people were screaming, how can we not protect these people? We're trying to protect you. Amnesty is giving a group of people refuge or forgiveness. It's usually used with people fleeing political persecution. In World War II, if a bunch of Jewish people from Europe were asking America to take them in, that would be given a group amnesty. So this is kind of like a pardon for a group of people. It could be a large group of people. give them a place to stay, give them protection. That's amnesty. And it's just like the rest of the world. Everybody's got to play to the idiots. So some innocent people get messed up because we don't want Ahmed to come over here and kill us. So some people are losing their life and, you know. Commute. This doesn't mean to travel somewhere. To commute a sentence. The president and the governor can commute sentences. That means to lessen the sentence. Shorten the sentence. Are you going to do that for the person that murders 20 people? No.
Yeah.
What's that?
Actually, yeah, I'll be really short.
You'd be really.
You'd be done for under the jail.
Okay.
Just put him up there.
Not
Couch off of him.
What is dangerous about the media telling us about when the government's messing up?
It's never the full truth.
They have an agenda. All right, so let's say it is a Democrat that they're talking about. Could they be trying to protect them, or could they be trying to take them down no matter what?
No.
And we are dependent on what they're telling us. We don't know. This story on this Hunter Biden stuff, I have no idea about it. I don't know. I'm dependent on people telling me. Some people are telling me things, and the question is, do they have an agenda? You know, if the New York Times and the Washington Post is telling me something bad about Joe Biden, that must be really, really bad. If they're telling me something good about Donald Trump, that must be really, really good, because they're not going to tell me something good about Trump, and they're not going to say anything bad about Biden. Fox News is rarely going to say anything bad about Fox, but they're going to find some stuff wrong with Biden. If they're telling me something Trump's doing wrong, it must really be bad. If they're saying something Biden's doing good, it must really be amazing. Does that make sense? So we're subject to their bias. They're deciding what to tell us. And then we're forming our opinions based on what they're telling us. It comes down to their bias and really their honesty. I really try, unless I look you in the face and say, I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel on this one. I really try to not be biased. So I want y'all to be able to make up your own decision. Sometimes I'll tell you what the truth is. Why would I think it if it wasn't true? You know, why would I? You know, I try to tell you, sometimes I'll tell you my opinion, but I really want y'all to be able to look at stuff. And number one, I want y'all to not be so knee-jerk reaction like the rest of the country is. To just, when you first hear something, don't just instantly, if it's something great about Trump, believe it and start sending it to everybody. And if it's something bad about Trump, don't instantly like it because you hate him. You know, we got to be real careful about that kind of stuff. But the media doesn't help us. They don't help us on that. We're dependent on them to tell us. Is today a weird day or is today a regular day, like time-wise? There's nothing wrong. All right, the Depression and the New Deal. When did the Depression and the New Deal happen? What decade?
1920.
Yeah, the late 20s into the 30s. I'm going to say 30s. It was 29 when the stock market crashed. Up until that point. All right, remember what were Hoover bills? People lost their jobs, and then they had to just live somewhere. So they'd find some dump and lean up whatever they could. The government didn't help people. There wasn't anything in place for the government to do for people. Up until the 1930s, that was our government. There wasn't much of it. The government, you could go your whole life and not have any kind of dealings with the government whatsoever. Income tax wasn't around until, the late teens. But after the 30s, government got to be. What do I mean by that?
Just a small amount of
Depression.
Started doing a lot of stuff. After the Depression, there were all these government programs. The government started being involved in stuff. Is that all bad? Is it all good? No. After the 30s is where you start to see the beginnings of a dependency on the government. Before the Depression, if you had a problem, you figured out a way to deal with it, or you died, or bad things happened. After the Depression, the question is started to be asked, what can the government do about this?
That's how it's supposed to be. I mean, in some ways it should,
Yeah.
in some ways it shouldn't.
I'm a big government stay out of my life guy, but if I lost my job and I lost my house and I might start, oh, what can y'all do for me? You know, we usually are big. Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't. But then the thing hits. You're like, oh wait, no, you know, if I broke my leg, I wouldn't cry. But I broke it. You know, we're somewhere in the middle. I feel is like where we need to be. I'm all for government helping some stuff, but
So if you-
we can't handle it. Human beings can't handle it. We can't handle a plate of free cookies. If you don't have access to cookies, please don't have any. If you have no way of getting cookies, you can have a cookie. I mean, anyway, everybody comes by and just, we can't not take cookies. You know what I'm saying? Human beings can't handle it. I'd like to think I would. If I want to buy a plate of cookies, even though I have a $5 bill in my pocket, I'm gonna get some cookies. You know? Did I tell you what little Christy did when she worked at the Walmart pharmacy? She saw people coming into the pharmacy with like fake nails and brand new key chains. Back 25 years ago, they started making little black boop, boop things, you know. So you always knew somebody had a new car if they had a boop, boop. She'd see people with brand new car keys and fake nails getting like government prescription stuff. And she was pregnant with a little cold. She's like, that's weird. So she called and tried to find out what it would take to get on these government programs. And she was told, quote, if you would quit your job, you could qualify. That's the problem. She has a job and the government told her, you can quit your job, then you'd be able to get this free stuff. That's the problem. That's a huge problem. The fact that we can help people with stuff is not the problem. The fact that people can actively find a way when they could do it themselves to get the government to do it, that's...
Find a way to not work.
Yes, that's not good. If you can do, you need to do. If you can't, we need to help. If I was running for dictator, that's what I would run off.
I guess you're practice.
Does that make sense? All right. And 21. What's the media? Yeah, you got the internet, TV, radio, any source of information is the media. In the 1800s, what was the media? Newspapers. That was it. And somebody talking. That was the media. In the 1900s, what was the first technology?
Radio.
Was that radio? Now you had telegraph in the 1800s, but radio in the 1920s, radio was invented. FDR happened to be at the right place at the right time. I'm not saying no one else would have done this. How did FDR use the radio?
They like broadcasters.
Fireside chats. Remember this last year? Whenever he wanted to do some big program deal, he would go on the radio and have a fireside chat. What's a fireside chat? It's a speech. But he didn't say, it's kind of like a fiddle and a violin, right? Who wants to hear a speech? Nobody. But people kind of wanted to hear a fireside chat. You don't want to hear a violin. If I say, hey, there's a fiddle, oh, really? You're interested. But violin, like, oh, really, I got to go. I got tons of stuff to do. So he didn't say I'm giving a speech. We're going to do fireside chats. And people would sit in their living room. They had, they didn't have TVs, they had the radio. You ever heard of old radio shows? They're pretty cool. Because it's a TV show, but it's on the radio, and they're describing stuff. It's really how they had to describe things. They had little sound effects. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you're a dork, Control. You should listen to the radio. What Pacer's thinking. But fireside chats, in the middle of the Depression, it was a way for him to really connect with people. And all these people were looking for was somebody who cared enough to help them out. Because they didn't see any. It was called the Depression because literally you were depressed. There's no way you can get out of this. And here the president of the United States is talking to me in my living room. That's really what they felt like. And that's why so many, like my grandparents loved FDR because he cared about me. He gave that feeling. And this is what really kind of gave me that feeling. This guy really cares. And even if, what's the first thing he did when he got in office? You remember the banks? He announced a bank holiday. All the banks closed all over the country because banks were collapsing because people thought the banks were going to collapse. So they all went and took their money out. And then what happened to the bank? It collapsed. So if you think your bank's going to collapse and you act like your bank's going to collapse, it's going to collapse. He closed them down. He said, we're going to close the banks for a week. They did nothing. They just closed the banks and opened them up. And everybody thought, oh, he did something. Finally, somebody did something. No, he just calmed everybody down for a week. And everybody's like, oh, good. Everything's fixed. No, just we stopped. We slowed y'all down for a second. That's what we did. But it helped him connect with the people. Everybody cool on that? 1950s. Actually 40s, but in the 50s. What's the new technology? TV. In 1960, you had the first televised debate.
That was fun to watch.
Yeah, well, it was because it was on TV. I wish I could go back for like a week when there was 3 channels, and you'd understand why some of these shows that were the highest rated shows because there was nothing else. First televised debate, it was JFK and Nixon. Most presidents are old, crusty-looking old men. John F. Kennedy was kind of a decent-looking guy. That was black and white TV. Nixon, not a decent-looking guy. He's an ugly guy. And he had 5 o'clock shadow. You know what 5 o'clock shadow is? Y'all don't hear those questions. He had Chris Pike, Coach Pike's oldest brother. All the Pikes had black hair. They could shave in the morning, and by lunch they had to shave again. Just black, just showed up. If you have blonde hair, you might have the same amount of stuff on your face, but you really can't tell, so you can get away with it more than like the guy with black hair. He had the 5 o'clock shadow, and it was hot. The lights were on there, and he was sweating, and he didn't look good on TV. And the people that watched the debate, the people that watched on TV said JFK blew him away because it was a visual thing. People on radio said Nixon blew JFK away because they weren't concerned with the looks, the appearance. After this, the way you look, your appearance, and not just if you're good looking or not, but the way you present yourself. They started hiring people, campaigns would hire people that would put their clothes together. And it was not just like campaign managers, but it was like people that showed you how to stand, how to talk, because it's all visual now. Everything is visual. We care very little for the audio part, but the visual in our mind makes a huge difference. Let's jump to the 2000s. Okay, you got phones, you got internet stuff, computer stuff. I told you about Howard Dean, how you used that to raise money. So you got the internet. Dean was the first guy in 2003 to use the computer to raise money. President Obama was the first president to use, like, I remember he had an email thing where if you had a question, you could email the president. Now, he didn't check the email every morning, so no people did, but you could email the president. I sent an email to the president. Colton Pacer used to stay in the same room, and we would listen to him. That was 2008. He would have been, what, 5? 7? 2? 5? Anyway, 6. I think he was 6 when this was going on. We heard him talking to little Colt. He said, Colt, this new president, did you hear? He thinks it's okay for a mom to kill their baby. How is that? Why would a mom want to kill their baby? What in the world? And so I said, So I sent an email to President Obama. I said, look, President Obama, could you please explain your position on abortion so I can explain it to my 6-year-old? He's having a hard time understanding this. And I never got a message back, and I always, for like 2 weeks, I kept waiting for the guys in the black suits and the sunglasses to come in. Tell my story! But President Obama was the first president to really use the internet to try to connect with people. Why is that? It was the same time all this stuff. It wasn't that these people were just the smartest in the world. It was now there's this new thing I can use. And they were there at the right time, the right place. So the internet, I'm going to say is President Obama. President Bush didn't really use it because there was cell phones. And a few people had them, but you talked on them. There wasn't any kind of, all this kind of stuff. That stuff didn't start. Texting, I remember when I was like 2006 or 7. All these kids they were texting. Why would you type something? Why would you just say something? Why would you take all that time to type? I don't get that. So why would you talk to anybody, number one? Why would you send somebody a message? Anyway. So, there you go. All right. Put that up, put your name on it, save it.
10-minute conversation.
And we're going to do
After about the third message you said, I'm just gonna call you.
3 things. Right.
Either way, if I'm going to get across the way, I'm trying to yell with you. I mean, hour-long conversation.
Like, texting for me is not good at all. Because sarcasm, all I do is sarcasm, and that does not come across in text. That just makes people mad. How dare you say it? Because you can see somebody's face and you kind of tell what they're doing. But just type a message.
FaceTime.
It's like if I type, you're an idiot. That's different than here.
I don't think so, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit. That was
What you guys say?
I can see it.
I can talk to you.
We're still going
I'm gonna show you some pictures here. They have to be better for you than French fries, because at least onions are like a vegetable that's better for you than a potato, right? That's my way of thinking. I'm gonna get onion rings, because that's at least something better for me. Okay. So it's got bread on it. Bread's also wheat, which is also a plant. So, and they fight oil and vegetable oil. So hey, all right. When I went to little Christy makes me go to the doctor every once in a while. My cholesterol is amazing. That makes no sense. When you plug in the gravy IV into your veins, how can you have good cholesterol? I don't understand.
I don't like it.
You
Don't like gravy?
I mean, like on chicken hot steak, okay.
It's okay.
But
Yeah.
like if I did like,
Gravy on that.
I could eat.
Gravy for anything.
You know what we're out where I would die the day somebody came up with a biscuits and gravy buffet.
Okay, no.
I could stand when little Christy makes biscuits. Luckily she makes not homemade biscuits. If she made homemade biscuits, I would not be here today. I couldn't get through the door. I would be the heart would be exploding every day. But I could stand there with like a thing of gravy and just stand there for like hours and just eat the gravy and the God. Please don't. Because you're not inheriting anything. Okay, just don't do it. Give us a chance to try to get out of it. Then.
Never could die.
Let me tell you what the West Wing is, real quickly, and I'll show you some pictures. The West Wing is the offices of the White House. The White House is the house. There's some stuff there, but it's connected to the White House. Guess which side of the White House? West side. Yes, it is the west side. There is also an East Wing. East Wing. That's how they have. That's how they get in. They have to show the password, and they have to learn how to. Yeah, I won't tell you about my past. Lane used to work on East Street in Sherman. He worked the gym there. And that's where all the drug dealers were and stuff. And Lane was working there for about 3 days, and I showed up, just hung out with him. Lane is a nerd, right? If you see him, he's a small, tiny little person with glasses. He wears his overcoat, and he kind of talks real soft. And he's in there, and he's got his books out, and all the brothers are, running the court and everything, and the ball bounces over, and it bounces over to his foot, and he picks it up, and the guy goes, "Hey, throw me the rock!" And Lane goes, "What?" "Throw me the rock!" And he goes, he has his glasses on, he goes, takes his coat off. He's an all-state basketball player. And he went out there, and he went to town and schooled every one of them. From that day on, Lane Lloyd is a legend on East Street. If he was to walk down East Street today, grandmas would come out and ask, "Lane! Lane!" Anyway, all right. West Wing. It's where, if you work in the White House, you work in the West Wing. All the people, the Oval Office is in the West Wing. The Chief of Staff's office. All the work of the President's administration takes place in the West Wing. So that's their office. Okay. Let me show you a picture. This is what it looks like. That's not the one. There. That's an old picture. This is the White House. Here's a light picture of it. See, there's the White House. There's the round part, there's the square part. That's the part you see on TV, the little round part in front. And it comes off to the side here, the west side, and there's the West Wing. But it goes down also. Why is it so short?
Because it's all underground.
But why do they do that?
So the sign is on top of the White House considered. Sign is on top.
Washington, okay, in Paris. I ain't never been to Paris. I'll never go to Paris. But they got the Eiffel Tower. And there's all kinds of rules about how tall buildings can be within a certain amount of miles of the Eiffel Tower. Why is that? They don't want to take away from the Eiffel Tower. They don't want to take away from the White House. It's a symbol. Right? The Capitol is a symbol. Washington, D.C. has 3 million people in it. And there are skyscrapers where they're away from the Capitol and the White House because they want to accentuate that. So it has a low profile, but it does go down in the ground.
I figured the pressure from all the crowd out would make it.
Well, that's why those architect people go to school and learn all that math stuff. Like I would, today the West Wing collapsed, killing thousands of people. And, if I was an architect, that's what would happen. But they have people, smart people, that figure it all out. This is like a floor plan of it. There's the Oval Office. Why is it called the Oval Office? It's called Oval. Yeah. Why is it called the Rose Garden? I guess they got roses all over. I'm gonna assume that. I'm gonna like it. Well, like Iceland and Greenland. Maybe this is the tulip garden. You know, they might try to throw you off a little bit. The vice president's office is here. The press secretary, the press briefing room, the cabinet room. That's where they meet. The president's cabinet. We don't know what that is. We'll get to that next week. The Roosevelt room. That's where all the Roosevelts meet. No, that's not true. That's the meeting room. They got the situation room where they meet and all the cool stuff happens. That's an old picture. Anyway, it's somewhere in there.
I ended up getting lost.
Probably would the first. Look at all this stuff. That's all. What is that?
It's a maze.
What is that? Corridor. Oh, whoa. What did I do?
You just made it bigger.
Whoa.
Huh.
Look at that.
Yeah, you're on the right side.
Oh, right.
Okay. I just like to mess this here.
Without the rose garden.
What?
Yeah.
Thur?
Here's the West Colonnade. You know what a colonnade is?
I reckon it's the walk.
Is that a
It's a walkway where there's columns. So they don't call it a colonnade. Colonnade. It's a colonnade. It's a walkway. Colonnade. That's the West Wing. Alright. There we go. The president's administration. You'll hear about the Trump administration or the Obama administration. It's the president's people. The people the president brings in with him, the goals, the programs, the stuff they're doing. That's the president's administration. Does that kind of make sense?
I was thinking about this the other day.
Huh?
This is totally off topic, but if Kamala Harris, she's a senator, right?
Yes.
And let's say she's not up for election for like the next couple of years,
Right.
and she wins vice president.
They appoint someone like Mr. Smith to take her place until a special election can be held. Yeah. So Mr. Smith could step in.
Save.
Been enacted by the Senate. So does this make sense, President's administration?
We need Mr. Smith.
Everybody cool? And last, the executive office of the president. This is in the West Wing. Right? And there are hundreds of people that work in the executive office of the president. There is the chief of staff, which we'll get to them later on tomorrow. But there is economists. What do you think an economist is? They try to build the economy. There's economists in there saying, here, Mr. President, here's what we got to do. There is all kinds of advisors, all kinds of secretaries that do all the work of it. That's the executive office. It's the West Wing, the executive office of the White House. They do the work. There's the Office of Management and Budget. We'll get to them later. They get to do a budget. I'd like to work in that office. A lot of all adding and subtracting and dividing. All right, we got a little time. Hang out. Everybody cool? Yeah, thank you. Have you seen Trey today? What? Yeah, I got an oil. You got a lot. Man, what if somebody just came by and brought like a